I feel like Steam Next Fest gets bigger every single time. So today we're going to talk about just 10 of the demos that stood out to me during February's Steam Next Fest. I decided to break this video up into 3 different categories. We've got fast-paced action, then there's chill and smooth games, and then finally Jumpy and Snappy. I want to believe that the names of these categories speak for themselves, so let's get started. Kicking or punching things off in the fast-paced action category, we've got a game called Reignbreaker. As a knight-turned-resistor named Clef, you've become the weapon of the rebellion whose aim is to bring down the queen. Now there's lots of ways to use the environment against your enemies in each encounter, but one thing I found really cool was the way you use your weapon in the environment. You've got this giant lance thing that yes, you can throw at your enemies, but you can also stab it into the floor in certain areas and it changes what it does. In some instances it becomes a giant turret, in other instances it activates a trap, so depending on how each combat area is laid out, your strategy is going to change. Perks are found after every encounter, and you're also going to find some currency, which lets you eventually unlock some permanent upgrades. And if that loop sounds familiar, it's because that's just about how every good roguelike goes. Next up is a game called Nitro Express that looks like it was heavily inspired by arcade shooters. In this game, you're on a task force that's assigned to fight off hordes of autonomous murderous robots. And it's got that old school style arcade madness where there's just so much happening on the screen at one time. But it's also got some unique controls which made playing the game just a little more interesting. And in between all of the action, there are some really fun cutscenes that help flesh out the world that you're in. And just going off the demo alone, there was a surprising amount of strategy involved in what seems like an extremely hectic experience. Shotgun Cop Man is on a quest to arrest Satan. But rather than jumping, Shotgun Cop Man uses shotgun blasts to move around each area. The movement and the controls in this game feel really weird at first, but if you just give it some time, you'll get the hang of it. And as you get more comfortable with the controls in this game, you're going to feel tempted to go back to earlier levels to see if you can move faster, maybe get through it without taking any damage. But at the end of the day, Shotgun Cop Man is all about looking really cool while pulling off some silly little action sequences. Not to mention this game's really weird sense of humor that is very evident even just by playing the demo. Now that we warmed up with the fast-paced action games, let's talk about some chill and smooth games. And we can't talk about chill and smooth games without talking about a farming sim, and that's why we're going to talk about a game called Cattle Country. You can settle into a life as a farmer in the Old West. And it's got lots of those tried and true mechanics that come with every good farming sim these days. You're going to grow crops, you're going to take care of cattle, you're going to take care of chickens, all the stuff is there. But one thing I found really interesting about Cattle Country is that it has a heavy emphasis on the narrative. The relationships and friendships that you're going to build with the townspeople are going to unlock more and more narrative beats. And depending on which path you take, you're going to learn more or less about certain characters, and each of these paths comes with their own benefits and bounties as you move through them. I wouldn't call a heist chill and relaxing, but if you pull it off right, it could be smooth. And that's where Monaco 2 comes in, a game where planning is everything. And depending on who you pick and who you're in control of, you'll have access to a slew of different abilities. And as you navigate these areas around each armed guard and around all the security that you've got to get through, you're gonna find a favorite character, but it's much better to be able to play all of them. That is at least if you're playing this game alone, but we'll get to that in just a second. Each heist also comes with a set of optional objectives that'll give you more loot when you finish and keep you coming back for more challenges. But even though I played Monaco 2 on my own, I would actually say this game is built for multiplayer. Because when playing with friends, you'll have the opportunity to plan out your attack as each character, thusly resulting in a really fun and collaborative experience. After all, friends who you can steal jewels with are probably friends you want for the rest of your life, right? Kaya's Prophecy is 1 part card battler, 1 part single player board game where you must satiate the needs and demands of a very ravenous deity, all while building up your village to try and bring civilization back to your lands. And if by the end of the in-game day-night cycle you haven't met the needs of this mad god, then there's going to be prices to pay. They're going to take from your resources resources and make it even harder for you to build your village up. In between day and night cycles, there are going to be certain events that are either going to help or hurt your situation even further. And while understanding how the card battling part of Kaya's Prophecy works, it's much more important to understand how resources are handled. So taking the right risks to get the right rewards is what this game is all about. And I was really surprised by the fact that this felt like a single player board game. Something about that made me want to play more of it. And I'm not usually one to be drawn to card games, so I feel like that's worth something. And then we've got a chill, relaxing ride on an undead bicycle in Wheel World. Although I don't know if it's undead as much as it is a haunted bicycle. Anyway, after Kat finds this rusty, haunted, sentient bike, she must then bring it back to its former glory. In order to perform these upgrades, Kat's gonna need bike parts. And lucky for her, they're strewn about the open world as well as earnable through bike races. And the better Kat does in certain bike races, the more parts and reps she'll get, and with more rep comes access to different areas. And in those new areas, there's going to be new challenges and so on and so forth. As a matter of fact, lots of the issues in Wheel World are probably going to be solved by racing and pulling off sweet jumps. Either way, this game's whole aesthetic and personality is what brought me to it in the first place. And riding the bike is surprisingly fun. Usually games like this don't really have an intuitive bike riding system, but this one feels right. And finally, that brings us to the Jumpy and Snappy games. And the first Jumpy and Snappy game is a game called Haste Broken Worlds. In this game, you're going to be running through deteriorating levels in order to save existence. Each area focuses on its own unique challenge that is all about going fast. Sometimes you'll be restoring the color to an area, while other times you're going to be fighting a giant robot shooting laser beams. But while you do these challenges, you're going to be collecting sparks from each zone, and you can use those sparks to buy temporary upgrades for your run. These are going to make it easier to navigate certain hazards along the way, as well as just making the game more fun. And zipping through the air in this game might look really intimidating, like how am I supposed to think that fast? Well, I wouldn't worry about it too much because I thought the same thing, but playing this game feels a lot easier than watching it. And moving through the air requires a little bit of finesse because you can dive down, and if you land on a hill at a certain angle, you're going to get a speed boost. So as you learn the flow of this game, you start to get a little more comfortable with the timing, and it feels really gratifying to learn.
Nice day for fishing.
Next up is a ridiculous game called Nice Day for Fishing. This one's set in the world of a collapsing online RPG. You play as an NPC turned adventurer by some weird glitch in the system, and now you're on a quest that's focused on fishing. And while your fellow NPCs remain a bit confused as how you gained, I don't know, a little bit of sentience, they're gonna help you along on your quest in the only way they know how, by feeding you mundane tasks and giving you menial rewards. And as a simple fisherman, this game's action is in real time. Get it? Real time. Timing is everything when you try to catch a fish. You hit them with lots of attacks until they go to attack, and then you have to block or parry. If you don't do that well, then they're gonna break your line and you gotta start your fish catching experience over again. And eventually you're gonna find yourself fighting demons with this same method. This game clearly has a sense of humor, and I am here for it, even if my jokes are kind of bad. And to close out the Jumpy and Snappy category, we've got a game called Dunk Dunk. Up to 16 players can go head to head in a basketball arcade experience. And strategy goes out the window in favor of performing needlessly fancy slam dunks. And since this is a party game, there's no shortage of dressing your character up to make them look really silly. And I had a fine time with Dunk Dunk on my own, but this game is clearly made for a big group of people. And that's a good thing because you can enjoy this game either locally or online. And I can't stress this enough. There's going to be up to 16 players in matches, and that's going to get hectic. And as with every Steam Next Fest, lots of the demos are still available for you to try. So I've linked all these games below, and make sure you check those out, wishlist them, make sure they're on your radar. But if you want to see all of the games that were available during Steam Next Fest, whether or not their demos are still alive, there's also a store page for that, and I will link that below as well. Because I love putting these lists together, but one of the more fun parts for me is when you tell me what you enjoyed from Steam Next Fest as well. And one of the reasons this video is a little later than I wanted it to be is because my Steam Deck is broken right now. It's in the shop, and I really hope it can get repaired. I was playing a game, and all of a sudden the left bumper just stopped working, and I couldn't do dashes anymore. It was terrible. So I need you to send as much good energy to my Steam Deck as you can, because that thing is my lifeblood. Apparently, I didn't realize how much I played it until it was no longer here. Remember, if you liked the video and any of the games that I featured here, then make sure you like the video. If you really like this video and you want to see more of this, then make sure you subscribe to my channel. I've got lots of fun stuff coming up and I'd hate for you to miss it, so make sure you click on the bell as well. And of course, thank you very much for letting me talk your ear off about 10 games from Steam Next Fest that I think you're gonna like, and I will see you in the next video.